Was Drive's first event one of the best debuts for an event company? Welcome back to Fomo or No Go, the series where you can find out if you should have had FOMO or if the event was a no-go. For this video, I'm going to primarily be focusing on the event as a whole rather than on an artist by artist basis. And if you want to see my previous videos from this event where I broke down each set in greater detail, gave my ratings on those sets, and who had the set of the night in my opinion, you can check on all of my social medias such as TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. The debut of Drive Oz on February 20th, Burnout Redline took place at the Melbourne Pavilion in Kensington, Melbourne. Public transport to the venue, the Melbourne Pavilion, is fairly accessible, with trams running alongside the venue as well as two train stations, Macaulay and Newmarket, which are both within walking distance of the venue. There's also a decent amount of parking, with many warehouse-type businesses next door that offer staff parking spaces on the weekends when the staff and warehouses are shut, as well as plenty of street parking on Stubb Street and surrounding roads. With the local lineup consisting of artists such as Don, Jathu, Ominous, Stratosphere, and Athics, Drive also was the debut event for Kova and Love Drowsy, aka Mr. Miyagi. Most of the local lineup were doing versus sets, with the exception to Don, who got a half-an-hour solo set. For internationals, we had Riot Shift, The Strikers, Mortis, and Keeley locked and loaded. With a confirmed attendance of more than 900 ravers, for the first-time event, Drive did really well for themselves. Production for this event was really good, especially considering the newness of Drive as a brand. Lighting, lasers, and big LED panels took up the display of the stage, even with trusses above the dance floor, allowing for some pretty cool visuals and effects during the night. Drive also offered exclusive merchandise at this event, including merch with the full lineup including hoodies and t-shirts, a small fan and a large fan with the Drive logo, and an Australian exclusive The Strikers Aussie Kickroll Master t-shirt only available at Drive and EMP events respectively. From the beginning of the night, there were a decent amount of ravers who came out to support all of the local acts. Kova and Love Drowsy specifically drew a surprisingly large number of people considering that they were the first act of the night. Most artists playing their sets did a really good job, but it was a little bit noticeable that there were a large majority that had little to no experience on the stage. Small imperfections, mixing errors, accidentally hitting the cue button mid-track and not correctly having the mic set up, or even turning the volume down momentarily to hear what was being said better, there were definitely some things that could have been improved upon. In particular, there were moments within the event that were blatantly obvious that with exception to one versus set, the rest of the local lineup were not chosen because of skill or relevance within the scene, but mostly because they were friends of the event runner, Kova. Specifically, Jathu and Ominous's set left a really sour taste in my mouth as one of the two members of Ominous decided that it would be a great idea to scream into the microphone, insulting the crowd and generally not letting the music shine for the entire 1 hour versus set that they had. It really brought down the mood at the time as I was excited to see Jathu specifically, having started listening to his music recently, enjoying it a decent amount. But when the entire start of the night is going seemingly well and for it to almost plummet face first off of a cliff that hard, it took me a minute to get back into a good vibe and enjoy the show put on by the final local act and the internationals. When I look back at my notes that I had made upon the night, there was one really consistent and glaringly obvious thing that stood out to me: the pace of the night. The pace, in my opinion, felt really weird. I even noted from the opening set, I'm really curious to see how the vibe will shift with Riot Shift and the Strikers starting their set when it's so aggressive so early on. The entire local lineup, in my opinion, did not play to their set time at all. Now, this can be looked at as a matter of maybe not the best decisions being made in planning of the local lineup specifically, or it can be a lack of experience from the lineup to realize where they sit and who is playing after them and their level of intensity and choosing not to overshadow them or allow for a rapid mood shift. From the first set to the third set, the music being played was really intense and normally what you would expect to hear at the end of the night rather than at the start before the internationals, who were notably less aggressive. Industrial and hard techno kits can be super aggressive at times, especially when paired with tracks with very heavy screeches. In Melbourne, a significant majority of events that happen here transition smoothly between two set times, meaning the music never stops, especially because MCs aren't a regular thing here and having a random pause when the next act is preparing their first track can be super jarring, and sadly that happened here more than once. The exception to this was Stratosphere and Athics, who I feel did a really good transition into their set and brought the pace down to a good and manageable level, while keeping the crowd engagement high and playing less aggressive and more party vibe tracks which would pair well with Riot Shift, who played directly after them. Location-wise, Melbourne Pavilion is a great venue with a really good sound system and is positioned in a really accessible and centralized location, and when packed to the brim can be really full and look like a small-scale festival venue, so the Melbourne Pavilion gets a 9 out of 10. Travel-wise gets an 8 out of 10 with the accessibility of the trams and the trains being very close. Stage effects get a 7.5 out of 10, mainly because I've been to shows at the Melbourne Pavilion in the past and have seen the range of production available at such a large venue, and this was more on the tame side of what I had seen previously. Busyness gets a 6 out of 10. It was crowded at times, but not for the size of the venue at hand. But for a company's first event, it was really good. Lineup gets a 7 out of 10. The international artists did a phenomenal job and delivered either exactly what I had expected or went above and beyond. But the small things with every local artist brought it down a bit for me. And overall, Drive's first event, Burnout Redline, gets a 7 out of 10. With time and experience comes better decision making as an event planner, mostly on what locals to have on the lineup and what times that they should have and who is right or wrong for any given event. With that, if you weren't at Drive's first event, you should have had FOMO.